Hello, and welcome back to the Tea and the Butty podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
And today's episode, we're going to be talking about what's the dumbest thing a European has ever said to you. Because we did that episode before about the...
dumbest thing an American has ever said.
Dumbest thing an American has ever said. So we thought we'll just do it on the flip side.
Yeah.
And we'll make it a European... Because,
instead of just British.
Instead of just British, because the British ones, it's the same kind of thing over and over again, really.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of, stereotypes.
I'm curious what kinds of things there's going to be. Because we've done these types of podcasts before.
I looked up on Reddit, and there wasn't too much, funnily enough. It's always, what's the dumbest thing an American has ever said?
Yes, because Americans are so dumb.
Yes.
Oh, God. I say that roll in my eyes, by the way.
Roll in my eyes. But there are some dumb Europeans out there,
Yeah.
Good majority of them, actually. Good majority, yeah. But, it's just I've got a few things, and there's not too many because I don't know why. I guess because no Europeans, maybe Europeans are polite, most of them, and they don't really say anything, Or they've done a lot of research beforehand and they don't.
Yeah, just say anything.
But then there's, just say the first thing that comes to their heads, know.
Yeah.
But, it's just usually in the UK and stuff, I've, experienced it. In the UK, it's kind of usually it's the gun violence thing.
Yeah.
About America.
Well, we've done a podcast sort of similar to this where it's just American stereotypes.
Yeah.
Or British stereotypes or assumptions that Europeans have about Americans or whatever. And they are the same things over and over. And I think I've mentioned before that one of the very first times that we went to the pub in Britain.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a really big group of people there, and they were all, sort of fascinated by the fact that I was American for whatever reason.
Oh, because it's a kind of a small town.
And they were all, wanting to talk to me and ask me questions.
So it's not like London or, a touristy city.
Yeah.
Or a university city, even. So it's kind of the town that I lived in, there wasn't much tourism coming there, especially from America. It's what are you doing here? It would be mostly you'd be met with, what are you doing here?
Yeah. And it was, I think the same guy who asked me, and it was years ago now, but I think we have mentioned this on the podcast before, so if you're interested at all, you'll have to sift through all of our many podcasts.
Many podcasts.
To find where I'm telling the story, unless you just by chance remember the story.
Remember it, you've got it saved.
And possibly you remember better than I do at this point. But I can't remember who he was. I think it was somebody that you guys didn't really know that well.
Yeah, he might have been a random guy.
He was just somebody there.
Because, we used to go to the pub and, there'd be these random... And I wouldn't know who they were. They just, day trippers, They just come in the pub and that's it. They're not a regular, but, he's kind of familiar. I've seen him around, but...
Yeah.
He's not part of the main core of regulars,
And the questions that he had for me, rather than, general questions about America were more Texas specific because I'm from Texas.
Yeah.
If you're new here, I'm from Texas. We're in Texas. He asked, and I can't remember word for word what the question was, but something about, do we all carry guns?
Yeah. That's kind of a generic American question I've heard from a lot of Brits, they all carry guns over in America because of the gun violence.
Yeah. And I was at the time, I wouldn't be so shocked now because I guess I know more about what British and Europeans think about Americans. But at the time I was just what? No? I think he even asked something about cowboy hats or
they're all wearing
horses
cowboy hats, horses, yeah.
Yeah, he had this idea in his head that we were all
living in the Wild West.
Partner, you know, and we're all cowboys and we go around with our guns on our holsters.
And I mean, that's kind of like, it's, you know, if you flip that, that's kind of like the general prevailing, you know, stereotype about England is like, oh, it's stuck in the 1800s.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, America, we've got mobile phones and laptops and, you know, technology and stuff like that. But in England, oh, they still don't have running water yet, and they still haven't figured out what cars are and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
But on the
wear
other
bowler
side,
hats.
Yeah. and in Britain, it's kind of like, oh, in Texas, it's like everybody's just riding around on a horse.
Yeah.
And, you know,
dirt roads.
Dirt roads.
I mean, there are dirt roads, you know, in some places, but
it's like, you know, shootouts in the frontier towns, going into the saloon and saying, yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, just for any
Wild West
just
type
for any
thing.
British people or Europeans listening, I have literally never seen anybody with a gun on their hip. Like,
yes, I mean, cops.
Only cops.
Only cops, and that's who, you know, you'd expect.
I've never ever seen anybody with a gun. I have, however, fairly recently seen like 2 different people with knives on their hips, like big giant knives. One was like, must have been like a machete. It was in a holster kind of thing. Like it was in a sheath or whatever you call it, you know. But like, it was like
a machete?
It was very long and it was swinging, and my niece and nephew, were freaked out. They were with me and they wanted me to call 911. They were just like, call 911. And I was like, I mean, he's got it in a holster, in a sheath thing, you know. It's like, he doesn't have it out, like, he's not swinging it around and stuff, and this is, you know, you are allowed to have weapons we're in an open carry state, I assume.
I mean, I don't know if that applies to knives, though, does it?
I mean, if it applies to guns, I would imagine
but
knives.
I don't know, I mean, I don't know if it's like, oh, you're open carry.
Yeah.
And you know, you're an open carry state, but nobody, well, I mean, besides that guy, I guess, I've never seen anybody open carrying myself.
No. Not a gun, no.
Because most of the businesses don't allow it.
Yeah.
They've got signs up saying you can't enter on the premises. Yeah, no open carry or concealed weapons on the premises.
Yeah, they just usually it just says no weapons allowed on the premises, like, period.
Yeah, unless you're a cop.
Yeah.
You know?
Whether you've got it concealed or whether you've got it out in the open, like, not allowed, you know? So, yeah. And I think the majority of people, even if they own guns, they are responsible enough or intelligent enough to realize that it's not safe to take it out in public. Like,
well, it's bordering on silly.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, getting into the thing, it's why are you taking this out? Oh, to protect myself from what?
Yeah.
You are expecting something. You're expecting to have some sort of like situation where you're going to have to use that weapon.
Or you're almost wanting something to happen so that you can use your weapon. I mean, I hate to say it like that.
That's the worry about some of these people. It's like, and that's a mental health problem.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's get off of this topic because it's not it's not the most fun thing to think about, is it?
Yeah.
And let's get on to some of these. Well, I say let's get off this. I have a feeling that that's what a lot of these questions and statements are going to be. Just like,
you don't know, do you?
All right, let's have it.
Someone said, had a foreign exchange student staying with their seeing us, and their family was coming to visit for a couple of weeks. They wanted to tour the US, so they were going to rent a car in SD, I guess, San Diego, and drive to New York.
South Dakota?
South Dakota, yeah. It just said SD. That's all it says. And drive to NY, then Disney World, and head over to Cali. So, yeah, maybe South Dakota. They thought they could do that in about 3 to 5 days.
What?
We told them the drive from our house to New York City would be about 24 to 30 hours.
Yeah.
The drive from New York to Disney would be about the same, and the drive from Disney to California would be longer than both of those. Turns out the US is a lot bigger than Europeans think. And it's like when my dad was over here, it was like, oh yeah, Austin's quite vast, isn't it? You know, you know Texas is a big place, but you don't know until you get here how big it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's true. You get we drive up to the Panhandle or whatever, or we drive to Dallas or Houston or whatever. 3 hours each way, and that's a 2-day trip for most British people. That's maybe even a 3 to 5 day trip.
3 hours.
That's something
one way.
that's a week-long vacation. You know, if they're driving, you know, it's like, oh, we're gonna stay in a hotel here. They'd stop in every little small town along the way
to use the
bathroom, or they'd have a cup of tea, or
stretch their legs.
Just like stretch your legs, or we're gonna have to get a hotel for the night here. It's like, we're 45 minutes from Houston. It's like, we're gonna have to get a hotel. Tired now.
Yeah. When my brother was playing baseball, and my mom and I were driving up to the Texas Panhandle, to watch him play some nights. We were really we were going up there so often to watch him that we could not be bothered staying in the town and then coming back the next day. We would drive up there first thing in the morning, get there just in time to see the game, and then literally drive home. That's a 9 hour
after the game.
After the game. That's 9 hours each way. We were just like, she would be like, do you want to stay? Do you want to leave in the morning? I was like, nah, let's go home. 9 hours there, and then 9 more hours back.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's like when you live in Texas, when you grow up in Texas, and the more often you drive as well. Like if you can live in Texas and be someone who doesn't really drive or go anywhere, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's going to be 9 hours. Oh my God. You know, it's even to them.
People up in the Panhandle, it's quite provincial. So, a lot of people are going to stay in their small towns. Amarillo's a long way away for them.
Yeah, 45. It's 45-minute drive.
45-minute drive. So, Austin, 9 hours.
Yeah, oh God. Yeah, no way.
Nah.
Yes.
That's a whole other country there.
Yeah.
And it is to some of them.
I remember when you first got here, or maybe it was the first time you ever came to visit me, and you were riding with me to go to work. One morning, you were going to work with me. You were going to hang out at my office.
Yeah.
And you were just like, oh my God, you have to do this every day. You thought the drive was forever.
It was 20 minutes or something, wasn't it?
In Austin, we always say, we have this thing in Austin, everybody
because I could walk to town in 10 minutes.
To get anywhere in Austin. If you live in North Austin, you're going to South Austin. If you live in North Austin, you're going to West Austin. You live in South Austin, you're going to West Austin. You live in East Austin, you're going to South Austin. Whatever, wherever you're going, it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's just it's just 20 minutes to get there. It's not a big deal. But that's 20 minutes in the morning when you're going to work, and then 20 more minutes,
it's about 45 minutes.
Wow, 45
of rush hour traffic.
Yeah. And Dominic was just like, oh my God, this is far. Why do you live so far from where you work? I was like,
why can't you walk to work?
It's this is not even across town. This is not even all the way on the other side of town, this is not that far.
Too much driving. You're doing too much driving right now.
And by contrast, when my uncle who lives in LA comes to visit, he needed to go to the post office one time, and at that time, for whatever reason, we didn't have a post office around where we live that has one of those machines where you can print the postage out yourself and buy the stamps and everything, do it yourself. The post offices around our house did not have one of those machines, and they were closed. And he was like, I want to get this out today. I need to just get it out so I don't have to think about it anymore. Just drive me to the other post office that has that machine. I was like, oh God, are you sure? It's and he's like, yeah. And so we're driving. To me, it was a little bit of a ways because we've got a post office right here, right by our house. But it's he didn't want to wait till tomorrow or whatever. So And we're driving, and literally, when we go there now, I'm thinking, like, yeah, this is not a long time, but I don't know why
I've started to think it's not a long time either now. Yeah, I'm just kind of like, I'm tuned in.
At the time, I was like...
So it's like, when we go back to the UK, you know, it's going to be like, you know...
yeah.
You know, we're there right now, but, you know, it's just like, you know, it's, like a drive up to Scotland or something. Nah.
Yeah.
It's going to be nothing to me, you know.
And you know, this post office is probably 10 minutes from the house.
10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, not so bad. But, and he's just like, what are you, this is right here. What are you talking about? You said this was far away. I was expecting we were having to go across town. I was like, this is far. I mean, I'm talking like in relation to, you know, we have a post office that's much closer. This one's not as close. But to him, because he lives in LA, and LA, you know, you said
sprawling,
your dad said Austin was vast. LA, my God. It's just like, it just goes on and on and on. So like, depending on where you're going, you know, we say, 20 minutes in Austin to get anywhere. In LA, I would say it's at least 45 minutes to get anywhere at the very, like, bare minimum. Because it's just...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so huge, so much traffic.
I mean, I can see that, happening.
But yeah, so Europeans just, especially if they've never been here, they just have absolutely no concept of how big it is over here.
Yeah, because, I mean, in 2 hours from the UK, heading east...
Yeah.
If you had, like, from, you know, in 2 hours, you could be in Spain.
Yeah.
Or, you know, France, or, you know...
On a plane?
On a train.
On the train, from the UK, on the train, 2 hours, literally, from London to Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're shaving that down to about an hour now.
2 hours, you know, and you're in a different country. It's just... yeah.
It's very all, like, compact there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, to show you how compact, this next one said, met a German at the Grand Canyon who was annoyed that the canyon was so big he couldn't see all parts of it in, like, the hour he planned to be there.
What? How is that even a complaint?
He's like, I can't see all of it. I've taken now here, and it's too big.
Yeah.
I can't see it all.
Yeah.
Well, that's annoying. You have to make this canyon smaller.
I mean, I've only been there, like, twice. Maybe just once, actually. I don't even, like... Yeah, we definitely need to go back. But, like, you can't... I mean... I don't even understand that. Like, what?
Yeah, it's kind of like a week. We could, like, if you're coming from the UK or anywhere really in, like, Western Europe, I'd say.
Uh-huh.
You can take, like, a week and you can see, like, maybe 3 or 4 countries. You know?
Yeah.
If you manage your time pretty well. You
Yeah.
know? Or you can see a couple of countries at least, you know?
In a week.
In a week, yeah.
In Europe.
In Europe.
Yeah, yes.
But, you know, it's like, this is another one, is thinking they can spend sufficient time in New York, Miami, and Los Angeles when they're here for a week. So much for them being good at geography, you know? It's like, yeah, it's like, you're just gonna fly here and rent a car and drive down from New York to Miami, then over to California.
I mean, I don't know how long that takes. I would say at least an entire day to drive from New York to Miami.
I'd say so. I mean, I haven't looked it up, but yeah, it's all the way down the East Coast.
And that would be like leaving very early in the morning and getting there quite late at night.
Yeah. It's a long drive.
Mm.
And I mean, it's cool because you're going through all the states, but, you know, well...
But New York to California, that's just going to take days.
That's
in itself.
That's going to take days in itself,
Unless you want to get a flight, and the flight's going to cost you $500 or whatever,
I mean,
you
it's
know.
probably going to cost you about $1,000 these days, depending on who you fly with. But yeah, that's what, a 5-hour journey across from New York to LA.
5 hours?
On the planes, yeah.
I think it's longer than that. I mean, it's like 4 from here to New York.
Oh, is it? So it's about 8?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I'd say it's about the same kind of, like, length as, like, a flight from Houston to... Well, the flight we did from Houston to London, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
I mean, if you booked flights, you could see New York and LA and Miami in a week, I guess, give yourself a couple days in each place, but it's like, yeah, you're also going to be spending a bit of time in a plane.
Yes, which is not ideal.
Yeah.
Another one is like, this guy asked if every person in the US has been involved in a shooting, because of the gun violence, and I noticed someone got into an argument with him over that, just saying, oh, yeah, because to Europeans it's like, school shootings and all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like they can't wrap their head around it because, there's just been locked down. It's like...
I can't wrap my head around it. I don't want to get into a big discussion about this because we try to keep things light on this podcast, but...
But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fair enough question, or... because I can see how it could seem like that, and... Yeah. It's unfortunate that is, one of the top things that people in Europe think about. And to get back to that guy, the guy who was asking me about guns, he's like, oh, I'd be too afraid to go to America, with all the guns.
I've when I was moving over here, that's all I heard was, ooh, why would you want to go over there? And this was from someone.
It's scary. It is scary.
I mean, yeah, it's scary when you just read news reports.
Yeah.
But it's not as, I hate to say it, but it's not as commonplace as people in the UK and maybe Europe believe it is.
But it's way too commonplace.
It's too commonplace, but it's not like, oh, I have to, as soon as I get to America, I've got to go buy a gun.
Yeah.
It's not to protect myself.
Or invest, like, in a... Oh, I don't want to talk about it, yeah.
And it's like, because people, because I had this, like, why would you want to go there? It's really...
Yeah.
Really crazy. Why would you want to go live over there? And this was coming from a guy who'd never been anywhere except to England.
Yeah. From Wales.
From Wales, yes.
Yeah.
And even that was a... Whoa. And he drove coaches. And we were... And, he drove coaches, drove buses, It was like coach tours or whatever to England.
I mean...
And we were just like, he's never had a passport.
Yeah.
This guy's never been overseas or anything. My dad was saying, it's like, yeah, he has, it's Wales is literally his...
I mean, really,
he's a homebody,
Yeah. I can't blame anybody for being, like, afraid of that or worried about that or whatever, because, unfortunately it always is a possibility, and that's, like...
Yes.
It's just,
I think this is the same guy said, and he was asking if we eat real food.
What?
Because everything's processed in America,
Okay.
And there's a lot of Europeans that, I mean, not so much British people, but... Like, I can see Germans and maybe French and Italians going, oh, you don't eat real food in America. It's all been, like, made in a factory and pumped full of colorants and E-numbers and additives and stuff like that. Like, everything is processed to beyond belief. Chicken nuggets and all this kind of stuff. I mean, and, it's just like, It's like, and the real cheese, American cheese, is just plastic,
Yes, but we have other cheeses,
Yes, yes, you do. And that's what you should say to these people.
It's like...
And they come and you go, if you see a Brit goes, oh, yeah, in America they don't have real food. You say, yes, we do, sir. Yes, we do. We have real food. We have the most real food ever.
I always hate doing these... the vice versa podcast to, the stupidest thing in America ever said to me, because we just say, like, lighthearted, stupid things, to British people, and British people get all pissed off about it, and then British or Europeans.
Somebody says it's like, and there's a pervading thing among all Europeans, and that's Brits included, is like, to wind up Americans and say the most insulting thing, and then when we say something back, they absolutely lose their, lose it. And it's like, yes, it's unfortunately... I mean, speaking from a place of like, you know, it's some sort, I mean, it's some sort of like bitterness over the loud tourist and the foreign policy and all that of the US, which has got nothing to do with the individual people. You know, it's like, you know, someone else said, oh, and they all think we voted conservative and we have guns and we're all, you know, Bible bashers. It's like, no, you know, the US is not like that, you know. It's like completely different. It's got a vast range of people.
Yeah.
You know.
And unfortunately, I would say there's the largest portion of the population here who does not vote.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so their voices are not heard whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so you can't really, like, say that everybody in the country is one way when it's just not true, you know?
It's just not true, yeah. Like, and it's just like, oh, and this Belgian guy was telling me his country had never been imperialist like the US. And I'm kind of thinking, has the US really been that imperialistic? But,
yeah,
you know, because it was kind of, imperialism was kind of long dead before.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're talking about just like, oh, America's so great and, you know,
yeah,
then maybe. But the Congo.
That's because nobody knows where Belgium is.
Well, there you go. Where is Belgium? Do you know where Belgium is?
It's like if anybody heard a Belgian person speaking, they would just be... I said a Belgian person.
Yeah, there you go.
If anybody heard a Belgian person speaking, they would just assume they were French.
You
know?
Sir, you are a Belgian person. You get out of my house.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And it's just kind of like, yeah, it's just very kind of like, you know, that kind of thing, you know. His country has never been imperialist like the US, and people are like, lol. You know, like... It's
just like, where's Belgium?
And it's like, where's Belgium? And also, what about the Congo, which was probably more brutal than anything the British Empire ever did in the world, so you win. You win, sir. Good night. Belgium wins everything.
Yeah.
They do very good French fries, though.
And waffles.
And waffles. I fly here just for the waffles. That was Jonathan Chabon. Do you remember that from...
No.
No. He's a Kardashian. You see, I'm up with my references, my pop culture references.
I don't know anything about the Kardashians.
I don't know anything about the Kardashians. I don't care where Belgium is. Goodbye, sir. Good day, sir. And it's like, you know, I was told by a British guy that American football is a kid's game, not like rugby. I mean, that's true. I've heard that in Britain, too. It's just like, oh, God, American football. It's just rugby with padding.
Yeah.
And then some people will go, well, yeah, it is kind of insane rugby.
You know, again, it's like when Americans say something, it's not insulting. It's just a bit, like, ignorant. When these people in other countries say things...
Europeans
to us,
being terribly insulting.
It's just rude. It's just like
rude.
It's like you're just being rude.
You're just being rude. Well, you know, they've had a billion years of practice.
It's like you're allowed to have your opinions, but you're saying these things to perfect strangers. Like, what is the matter with you?
Very rude and snobby people in Europe and the UK.
Yeah, with just like incorrect assumptions most of the time.
Getting all wound up over them.
Yes, I hate doing these podcasts. I hate doing these episodes.
And it's just like, I mean, you know, it's just kind of like, you know, you just go, okay, you know, like, calm down, mate, you know. You know, it's like, I've heard that the, you know, American football's a kid's game and not like rugby and all this kind of stuff. And it's just kind of like, yeah, I mean...
Who cares? Next!
I mean, that's it. That's it for that. Because, I mean, that's it. I think we can end this podcast. Because you're about to freaking throw down and you're about to go smack down.
Who cares? The end.
Smack down on these people for being very rude to me. Those European countries have been very rude.
Oh my gosh! You know, it's so funny though when you see other people.
But
who
the
react
thing
to
is,
this kind of thing, and they're always going, and they always go, "Oh yes, the Europeans, they're very right there, aren't they? They're kind of right. Oh, they're."
No, that was another thing that someone pointed out. It's like, I hate those Americans who suck up to the locals.
Oh yeah,
and they're very apologetic about America, and they suck up to the locals, just trying to be friends and. You know, just trying to be like, oh, because, yes, you're right, yeah, our cheese is plastic, and,
yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, it is plastic. It's like the American cheese.
It is plastic, and you better like it.
American cheese.
I put one in a burger, plastic. And it's plastic.
But we have cheddar, we have mozzarella, we have Monterey Jack, you know, we have everything. And we have all the same stuff, you know, like, get a life.
And, you know, it's like, our cheese is plastic, and also Barbie is plastic. And she lives in a plastic world, and it's great.
We invented Barbie. Did you go see Barbie? Did you see Barbie? Then you like America. Shut your mouth.
And that's what she said on the plane. And she goes, and that guy over there, he's not real. He's not real. I tell you, he is not real. He did not go see the Barbie movie. He's just plastic. I defy any one of you to tell me if he's real.
You know what? I should have been the one to look up quotes, because now I'm just like,
there wasn't many.
You chose these quotes. You went in.
I didn't. No, this is all that was there.
Everyone should know that Dominic is the one who chose these.
That was all that was there. That's all I could find.
No, I don't believe you.
There wasn't any light-hearted ones.
There has to be. There has to be.
I mean, no, because this was Americans saying the dumbest things that they've ever heard.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just like, oh, I get sick of these people.
And that's the point, is this stuff is rude, but it is ultimately also dumb.
But the thing is, and there's a lot of people in, like, Europe that think, like, you know, like you say, oh, it's just a little bit ignorant, you know, Americans don't know where things, but they think, like, there's a lot of people who think, like, the American, like, smiley and have a nice day is all fake, too. They think, oh, they're not really being sincere with that. They're really
That's just because European people are
rude.
Miserable people, and they can't imagine anybody who's happy.
They don't live in a world of plastic.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
Yes. Oh my god. All right, we gotta go, because I didn't know what this podcast was, but...
It was a very rude podcast.
But I'm wound up beyond belief, so it's time to go. Say goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Thank you guys for tuning in. As always,
Goodbye,
we really appreciate your support. Be sure to give us a follow on social media if you don't already. We are at TButty, TEABUTTY on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all of the social medias. Twitter's not Twitter anymore. It's X. I'm never going to call it X. So when I say Twitter,
that was Elon Musk who did that.
Yeah.
He's a very rude guy.
Shout out to our patrons.
Yes.
For their continued support. We really appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you all next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.